senior UN envoy has pleaded with the Security Council to help break the siege of eastern Aleppo. Stephen O'Brien, the Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, says the city could become one giant graveyard if nothing is done to protect civilians. 45 people have been killed there on Wednesday in the latest airstrikes by regime forces who are trying to retake control of rebel-held territory. Our correspondent Sandra Gathmann joins us now live from Gaziantep near the Turkey-Syria border. Sandra, we know thousands of people have been fleeing. What's the latest on the situation on the ground?
Well, the latest we're hearing, Annalise, as this eastern advance continues into rebel-held areas is of heavy artillery targeting one residential area in particular where 21 civilians have been reportedly killed. We understand it was a housing district where, in fact, many displaced people were taking shelter. And this is the reality across most of eastern Aleppo. Thousands of people overnight have still been trying to seek shelter, trying to flee the ongoing fighting. And that's the worrying picture we're getting day after day. Some reports coming into the UN particularly worrying of those thousands of civilians trying to seek shelter but being detained at specific checkpoints that lead to government-held areas, disappearing or often, as I said, being detained, but also that some opposition groups are trying to prevent some of those civilians fleeing areas under their control, Annalise.
And now the UN held an emergency session on the need to get humanitarian aid in Aleppo. How much hope is there that it will lead to any change on the ground?
Well, I think if you go by the words of the emergency relief coordinator for the UN, Stephen O'Brien, he paints a very bleak picture. He almost sounded resigned, in fact, in his phone conversation with that emergency meeting, saying that it's been 5 years of calls, demands, and requests from the UN to Syria, to Russia, to try to stop the violence. And he even went as far as saying that it may be too late for some people in eastern Aleppo at this point. So a worrying picture, but nonetheless, UN officials at the highest levels are still trying to push for a humanitarian response, still focusing on trying to open some kind of humanitarian window or corridor to get relief into people who have nothing at this point. We did hear one announcement from the Russian Defense Ministry. They said that one road in particular, the Castello road, has been liberated and that UN relief efforts can use that road to get delivery in, but the UN denies that road is usable because it only reaches people in the western part of Aleppo and not besieged areas. So still very much the UN's position being that they're waiting for a credible plan from the Syrian and Russian sides to get relief into those besieged areas and to get many hundreds of people wounded out.
Sandra Gathmann in Gaziantep, thank you for that update.